Hello everybody. So today we are talking about word classes, or more likely I am talking, you are listening. So in order to start the topic of word formation, we need to talk about the different parts of speech, in other words, word classes. So how do we separate words? Similarly to Estonian, we separate words into different classes. So you can see that we have nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, prepositions, conjunctions, determiners, and exclamations or interjections. So I will be talking briefly about each category, when they are used, how to recognize them, and give some examples. So in order to help you, I recommend you make some notes for yourself. I'll try to give you enough time for that. So we'll start with the first class of words, which is noun. So you can see the Estonian translation as well. And the questions that you ask for these words are who and what. So mainly they are things, they are persons, they are ideas that you can express and answer to with the question who or what. So how do nouns categorize themselves? Well, firstly we have two big groups. We have common nouns, which are things that are not names but are objects or persons or ideas. So you can see that the example for a person would be an engineer, a girl, a teacher, a woman, a man. So it's one out of a group, a type of person. An example for a thing could be a chair, an apple, a television, a device, anything that represents something that is not alive. An idea is something you cannot touch and that is not alive. So for example, love, freedom, hate, relationship, those types of words. So those are all common nouns. Now proper nouns are names. So I've kept it quite simple for you and just added two examples. So it could be a name like the name of a city, a name of a person, a name of a company, a school, a name of a theatre, or any other establishment for that matter. But proper nouns are names. Now another way to separate nouns is to separate them into concrete nouns, which are people and things that exist physically. It means you can find them and touch them. For example, cat, house, bread, right now for you, a chair, a desk, a pen. On the other hand, abstract nouns are ideas, qualities, or conditions. So we can talk about truth, friendship, and humor, for example, but we cannot touch them. So as you can see right now, I have brought some examples, but they are all common nouns. So the word truth is a common noun, but it's also an abstract noun. And we have collective nouns, which are there to refer to groups, an audience, a family, team, government, the police, any kind of group. So again, family is a common noun, but also a collective noun. Another way to describe nouns is more familiar to you. It's whether they are countable or uncountable. So countable nouns, as you can probably guess, are things you can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. For example, I have 1 apple, you have 2 apples, we have 3 apples, and so forth. We can count them. A slice of bread, I have 1 slice of bread. Can I have 2 slices of bread? I can count the slices. Or a house. Now, if you cannot count them, then they are called uncountable nouns, because that makes sense. For example, meat. I cannot say grammatically that I have 1 meat. I have a pound of meat. I have a piece of meat. I have 1 pound of sugar. I have a tablespoon of sugar. So I have to add something that helps me count the noun, because these are items that cannot be counted unless they have a sort of a portion given to you. You don't know. If I tell you I want 1 sugar, then yes, you can guess that I want a piece of sugar, but you cannot be sure because you don't know what 1 sugar means to me. We'll move on to verbs. So verbs are words that describe something that is happening. They can describe an action, an event, a situation, stative verbs in that sense, a change. So there are different ways, but they all describe something that is to do, to jump, to snow, to be, to evolve. And for clarity, we use 2 terms often that should be clear. When we talk about the infinitive form of the verb, then we mean the base form of the verb. For example, to live, to see, to break. So this is the form of the verb that you can find in a dictionary. Now the gerund is the ing form, known more likely to you. For example, living, seeing, breaking. You might need it for continuous tenses. For example. We'll move on to adjectives. So to make our speech a bit more colorful, we need adjectives. The task that they have is to describe a noun. For example, instead of saying this is a book, I can say this is an exciting book. This is a green book. This is a tidy book. So it makes the meaning of the noun more nuanced. We can split adjectives into different kind of groups, and there are 4 I'm going to talk about today. So the first group is whether the adjective is attributive or predicative. If the adjective is attributive, then you can see it before a noun. Physically, it stands before a noun. If it's predicative, then it stands after the noun. So the cat was orange. Orange is still describing the word cat, but so when we are talking about comparative adjectives, then we are comparing 2 or more items, persons, ideas. I am bigger than you. Maths is easier than English. So there are 2 items we are comparing or more. Now the superlative form is when I am comparing 1 item to all the rest that go to the same group. For example, I am the biggest person in class. Biology is the easiest lesson. So it's something that is the most or the least of a quality. Now, the next way to categorize adjectives is to either tell that they are qualitative or classifying. So qualitative adjectives describe a person or thing's qualities. I can call a man tall, a tall man. I can call a story boring, a boring story. So it means that the story has a quality of being boring. The man has a quality of being tall. Now, classifying adjectives separate people and things to categories. So it doesn't say that the coast is eastern, but it is located in the east, it is the eastern coast. Now this time the person isn't boring, they don't have the quality of being boring, but they are bored. So right now they can be classified with the people of bored people, but they themselves are not boring. And the last way to separate adjectives is to consider them gradable or non-gradable. So it's quite easy to differ these two. These adjectives that are gradable can be changed with adverbs. So I can call a big house a very big house, a slightly big house, or a less big house, I could say. Or I can call something less expensive or more expensive or very expensive. And that changes the meaning of the word expensive and big. So I can call something more expensive and less expensive because I can compare the price. Now, some adjectives cannot be changed with adverbs. So, for example, the eastern coast, it wouldn't be very likely for me to say that it's a less eastern coast or a more eastern coast, or one device is more electronic than the other one. We could argue on that matter, but you get the gist of the topic. You cannot use some adverbs to change the meaning. Next up, we have adverbs. So adverbs have different types. Again, mostly they give information about a verb, an adjective, or about another adverb. So for example, if it is giving information about a verb, sang how, sang quietly, sang loudly. About an adjective, less expensive, more expensive. Or another adverb, very fast, could be considered an example as well. Now, the different types of adverbs. We have time adverbs, which answer the question when. So they tell us something about when a certain situation has happened. Adverbs of place tell us information about where something happens. Adverbs of manner answer the question how. So they speak about how something is done, how somebody is feeling. Adverbs of frequency answer the question how often. So you can express when something is done. And adverbs of degree can also add extra emphasis to how much something is done. I am fully committed to my job. I would rather not work here. I am quite too lazy to get up in the morning. And the most usual ending of a word that gives it away that this is an adverb is the ly ending. Happily, sadly, quietly, expensively, and so forth. But you can see some examples here as well where the ly ending is not there. So those are some exceptions. Some exceptional forms. Next we have pronouns. So pronouns are used to replace a noun to avoid repetition. This means that it is used to replace a common noun or a proper noun, and it has to have the same meaning, and we have to understand what we are talking about, but we don't want to use the name all the time, for example. So again, there are 5 different types of pronouns. First we have personal pronouns. Now personal pronouns, as you can read, refer to specific people or things. I, me, mine, you, yours, his, her, hers, we, they, them. So you can see that all of these pronouns need a certain person to be used. So they don't stand on their own. Well, I could be used and you, but otherwise if I say his or her and I haven't told you who I'm talking about, it could be quite confusing. Subjective pronouns. So they act as a subject of the verb. So subject in this sense in Estonian would be alus. So for example, I saw Kate, you saw Kate, whoever saw Kate. The sentence in English starts with a subject, the person who is doing the action. And the objective pronoun acts as an object of the verb. So in Estonian, sihitis. They called me, they called you, they called us, etc. So it means that it is the person that the act is being done to. They is the subject, and me, you, us, him, her, it, or them would be the object. Possessive pronouns refer to something owned by somebody. So I could say, this is my house, but that wouldn't be a possessive pronoun. But if I end the sentence with it and use mine, yours, hers, his, ours, or theirs, then it is a possessive pronoun. Reflexive pronouns refer back to the subject. So myself, himself, herself, etc. So it's all to do with the self. So the person who is doing the action in the sentence is being referred to by a reflexive pronoun. So those are the 5 different types of pronouns for you to separate. Next up, we have prepositions. Now, prepositions in English are instead of our Estonian käänded, and they are used in front of nouns to show how the noun and the other words in the sentence are connected. So there are different types of prepositions, again, like with adverbs. There are prepositions that deal with the position where something is. There are prepositions that deal with time, when something is. Prepositions that deal with the way or the manner, how something is. And we have phrasal prepositions, meaning that there are two prepositions that go together to create a new meaning. For example, because of, next to, on top. When they stand alone, they have one meaning, but when they get together, they create a new meaning. So 4 types of prepositions to help you express where, when, how something is. Next we have conjunctions. So conjunctions, as in Estonian, they have the task to connect phrases, clauses, lauseosad, and sentences. And as in Estonian, which makes it a bit easier, there are 2 types, coordinating and subordinating. Now, it's a bit more tricky with the commas in English. It's not exactly the same as in Estonian, but we won't get into that at the present moment. We'll deal with that on the topic of punctuation. So coordinating conjunctions, like in Estonian, join equal items. This means that I could put a full stop between the 2 clauses, for example. So I could say, I am a teacher and I like running. But I could say, I am a teacher, full stop. I like running, full stop. So those parts of the sentence are equal. They can stand alone without each other. Some other coordinating conjunctions for you given here as well. Or, but, nor. I am neither old nor young, for example. For, yet, and so. Now with subordinating conjunctions, they join subordinate clauses ehk siis alistavad kõrvallaused to the main clause pealausega. Nii et eesti keeles me räägiksimegi rindlausest ja põimlausest. So subordinating clauses have to deal with põimlaused. For example, they can be until, because, although, since. And this means that the subordinate part of the sentence cannot stand alone. I am here because I want to study. If I say I am here, full stop, I want to study, I could say that, but it would change the meaning. I have been here since 5 o'clock. So the 5 o'clock couldn't stand alone as a sentence. It would make no sense. So subordinating clauses need the main clause to stand. Determiners. Now, determiners, again, are a word that doesn't stand on their own. They need something next to them. A noun. So it introduces a noun. So we can have determiners like the article. So the indefinite article a or an apple, a school. Or the definite article the school I go to, for example. Also, it can be every, this, that, these or those, many, or some, for example. So it means that I am referring to a certain object of a group, a noun. And to refer to that, I am using a determiner. I am determining which noun I am talking about. So a determiner in itself doesn't mean a lot. Exclamations, or with another word, interjections. So they express strong emotion and often enough they stand alone. So a greeting can be an interjection. Hello. Well done. Oh no. So you can make an interjection out of a lot of words if you put some strong emotion to it and add an exclamation mark at the end. So they can stand alone and they express some sort of emotion, whether it's surprise, disgust, fear, happiness, whichever. And now we have come to the end of our talk about word classes. I hope you made notes, and I hope you'll carry on with the topic with ease. Good luck!